Hi friends, welcome to Harmony Hills Home and Garden. I'm Jenny and I live and garden in Baltimore, Maryland, but today I'm at the Maryland State Fair where I am a docent at the demonstration garden that the Master Gardeners of Baltimore City and Baltimore County maintain for the State Fair. I thought I would take this time to show you around the demonstration garden here at the Maryland State Fair. The garden here at the State Fair is in a plot of about 50 feet by 30 feet, although it's shaped like a triangle. I hope the music around the corner doesn't get in my way. So it's shaped like a triangle, and it has an herb garden here, beautiful arbor with native honeysuckle on it, and then a wide variety of different types of container gardens, raised gardens, no-dig gardens, all sorts of different methods. At this end, at the point of the triangle, we have our sign saying what this is, and then we have the herb garden, and also some marigolds and other flowers in here that you might have in an herb garden at your own house. And then the star of the show are these perennial Texas star hibiscus. We have a yellow one here. We just had a thunderstorm, so they're all closed up. And then we also have a red one. And when you don't have a thunderstorm, they look a little less bedraggled. The yellow and red and black and white are the Maryland State flag colors, and that's why you'll see a lot of red and yellow flowers in the garden. Now, this garden was put together in, I think, 2016, maybe something like that. And the purpose of it was for the State Fair Committee asked the Master Gardeners of Baltimore City to help with this, to set this up, to show home gardening techniques to State Fair attendees. You know, at the State Fair you have all the animal husbandry things, you have the 4-H demonstrations, you have a lot of farming community folks coming in from around the state to the State Fair to demonstrate things, to show their animals, show their vegetables, and so forth. And so, and of course, the fun part of the fair with the rides and the midway and things. And so the idea is to get gardening into the hands of home growers through this demonstration garden. So there are a lot of different raised beds in here of different types, and some beds just on the ground as no-dig method. And the idea is that we can show each visitor to the garden the different ways that you could set up a garden in your home. If you have no money to do a garden raised bed, just put it in soil in the ground. Just make a mound. If you have a few dollars and some time, you can build a raised garden out of some extra wood. Of course, you can use containers. We've got some half barrels here. We've got some grow bags. And over this way, we've got some sweet potatoes going in the potato grow bag that has the peekaboo window here, although last I looked, all we see is roots. You see how dry we've been? The water has come down to about here, but down here is pretty dry still. We've got raised beds with edges on them. We've got this one here is a kit from Gardener's Supply. You can hardly see it right now, but it's one of the Gardener's Supply kits. Here's one here that's wood and corrugated metal. There's one down this way that's just found materials. This is reclaimed wood from someone's garage. The idea being that you can advise home gardeners on how to get started from where they are. One of my favorite parts of the garden this year are the tomatoes that we've got planted. Now, we've got 10 tomatoes here, 10 tomatoes that changed the world. This demo garden was based on a book called 10 Tomatoes That Changed the World by William Alexander. And so we have 10 tomato plants here that are represented in this book. It's been really fun to interact with visitors to the garden and tell them that we have 10 tomatoes that changed the world. And they're like, what? And so then you say, yes, the first one. This first tomato that we have here is the first tomato that was taken from Central America to Europe back in the 1500s during the days of European exploration in Central America. That's amazing to think that we have one of the varieties that is a heritage variety from more than 500 years ago that was the tomato that changed Europe. And then we have 9 other tomatoes in here, the beefsteak, the San Marzano, the Rio Umberto, the first tomato that was made into Heinz ketchup, Roma tomatoes, which were actually developed here in Maryland, not too far away. I think this one is, here we go, Burpee's Big Boy. This was the first hybrid tomato that was sold in America as a smaller, not so giant vine. So in the 40s and 50s, this tomato taught American gardeners that, yeah, tomato gardening at home can be fun and rewarding. This is Florida tomato, the one that's used in the grocery store all the time. Good old Brandywine. And lastly, Mountain Magic. So there's a fun story behind each one of these 10 tomatoes, and I recommend that you check out that book, 10 Tomatoes That Changed the World, and read all about how tomatoes have influenced society and culture and economics and food availability throughout history. Some fun things we have in the garden this year is some popcorn. This is miniature colored popcorn, and it's fun because we've got the ears pulled back so that visitors to the garden can see how it looks. Different ears have different colors, of course. So here's one that's more dark brown. There's some that are more yellow with darker red and brown spots. Of course, a lot of people are surprised that this kind of popcorn kernel can actually make popcorn. And, you know, so many people don't know where our food comes from, and they don't know how food grows. And so we've done a lot of teaching in the last couple of weeks of the fair for people to learn about how potatoes grow versus how tomatoes grow, and how that's different from melons, how that's different from corn, all the different things. I had a lot of fun last time I was here last week teaching folks about the asparagus bed. So many people don't know what asparagus looks like. And so all they know is what they eat when they eat asparagus. And when they walk past this bed of asparagus, they're like, that doesn't look like asparagus to me. So then you explain it to them and they feel like, wow, I never knew that. And you can see light bulbs going off in their eyes. And people generally think it's really cool to learn about how their food grows, especially if they aren't sure about it. Most people know about a tomato plant, but they don't know about asparagus. In the garden, we've got this big tower of beans, 3 different kinds of beans on here. We've got the Chinese red noodle beans. This one happens to be curly. They mostly aren't curly. They're mostly like this. And then we've got some yellow wax beans in here somewhere. Maybe they're done. We were harvesting them last week. Yellow wax beans, red noodle beans, and some French fillet beans, little red French beans. I'm not seeing anything other than the noodle beans at the moment. And I just think that these are so cool. I have some of these in my garden too. I've really enjoyed them. A couple different kinds of eggplant. A white one, Paloma, and one called Anina. And the birds are loving the grain at the top of the sorghum. Sorghum is grown as a grain for the grain at the top that goes into birdseed a lot. Or you can grind it and turn it into a flour. And of course, the cane of sorghum you can use as a sweetener, somewhat similar to molasses. Got this big trellis full of melons here this year, cantaloupes. I had one last week. It was so delicious. And a lot of folks are surprised to see that they're hanging here inside of pantyhose. We've got sweet potatoes in this bed. So last year during the state fair, we had sweet potatoes in this bed again, and they announced there's going to be a demonstration. We're going to dig up the sweet potatoes. Come and see the sweet potatoes get dug up. And so people at the fair came and were standing around watching, and they dug them up, and there were no potatoes under there because they'd all been eaten by voles. What a huge disappointment that was. So this year, we took some precautions. This year inside the sweet potato bed, we've got hardware cloth. This goes down the side, across the bottom of the bed, and up the other side, and it also goes up on the ends as well. So essentially we have a big basket made out of hardware cloth that we're growing sweet potatoes in this year, and we're really hoping, with any luck, that when we pull these plants up this year, we will have some potatoes at the end of them. Here's a little bit of a closer look at the sorghum. Looks a lot like corn. It is in the grass family, as is corn. We've can see the grains up there that have been starting to be picked apart by the birds. One of the most intriguing things that we have in the garden this year is the loofah highline. Last week when I was working in the garden, we had so many people who did not have any idea how loofahs come to be. A lot of people think loofah come from the sea, like a sponge, but no. Us gardeners, we know it's a plant. So we've got a trellis here that goes, I don't know, 20 feet long. And the plants are planted in the soil right here, but they've come up and they've gone this way and down the other way as well. And we have several loofahs growing now. Boy, this vine has grown a lot just since last week. It looks like we harvested some last week as well. But here's one. It's kind of heavy, full of water. Looks like a huge cucumber, maybe a zucchini, but that's a loofah. We have a few different kinds of peppers. We've got some cowhorn cayenne peppers. I'm not even going to touch those. Poblanos. I grow these at home. Jalapenos. Shishitos. And some flavor bursts. These are snacking mild ones. I have grown a lot of peppers at home this year, and my favorites and the ones I'm going to be repeating next year are the snacking types. The hot ones, none of us are really eating them, so I think we're just going to save our energy on that next year and go for the snack styles. Now, I was here in April when we planted these zinnias. We got red ones here and yellow ones over there. I planted the yellow ones, by the way. And April is when we planted them. They're looking full and lush. They've been blooming all summer long. And now you can see they're starting to get a little tired in there. But wouldn't you if you'd been blooming there for that long? Now we got some okra here. It's looking really pretty. This is called red burgundy okra. And the pods are really big. Like, really big. And then we've got some black-eyed peas. So if you leave them to go, they can dry on the vine, and then you harvest them and they're already dry. There's the loofah. We've got some beets and some carrots. And then here we've got some buckwheat that we're using as a cover crop. But the soil underneath it has been inoculated with mushrooms, so we may be able to harvest some mushrooms as well out of this bed. Now over here on the side with the asparagus, we have a cage that was built originally to grow blueberries. It's just 1x2s and 2x2s screwed together to make sort of a rectangular cage with chicken wire. And so you can grow your blueberries or raspberries inside of there. This year we have cucumbers going. But it's just another way to demonstrate to home gardeners that you can have wonderful things in your garden and how to get them and keep them protected from critters or other pests. So I'm excited to introduce you to my friend Robert. He is one of the coordinators of the demonstration garden here at the Maryland State Fairgrounds. How long have you been doing this?
You know, I was an intern in 2014 with the program, and I've been working in this garden ever since.
Well, you seem a lot more knowledgeable than just 10 years, so you must have been a long-term gardener before that.
I grew up next to my grandfather, who was a dairy farmer. The dairy farm was defunct by the time I came along, but my father and my grandfather, one of my uncles, still gardened an acre of land. So as a young man, I was out with a hoe quite often.
Oh, my goodness. So you've been one of the coordinators, although every time I'm here, he's the only coordinator here, so I don't know who the other coordinators are. But so you've been in charge, I would say, in charge of this garden this year. So how did you decide what to plant? What do you think about when you choose plants for the garden?
Well, I try to find things that I think our State Fair visitors would find interesting. We always do something new each year. This year we're growing cantaloupes on trellises. We're doing popcorn. It's the year of the sweet potato, so we have several different varieties of sweet potato. Just try to find something that's going to catch people's imagination. Mm-hmm. 2 years ago, we did the loofah vine, which is a big hit, so we, of course, brought it back again this year.
Yeah, last week when I was working at the garden, I had two people who stayed with me for 45 minutes because they were introduced by the loofah, and
awesome.
then they were like, "Well, you know, and I said, did you know we have 10 tomatoes that changed the world? And they're like, what? And one of the guys was from Guatemala, so he was all about this tomato that was introduced from Central America into Europe. So the tomatoes were a big hit with those guys, and then they wanted to know all about the red noodle beans, and then they wanted to know all about the sorghum, and then the guy was giving me advice on the best Guatemalan rum made from sorghum.
See? You learn something. You always learn something at the Learning Garden.
That's
you ought
right.
to come.
That's right. Well, Robert, thank you so much for everything you do for us here in this garden and for the state, because I know there's a lot of people who are influenced positively by the work you put into this garden.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Let me do one more plug if I could.
Yes, please.
The Learning Garden is here next to the 4-H building. It's not only here just for the state fair. We maintain the garden throughout the year. And the fairgrounds are open 365 days a year. You only have to pay to come in during the fair. So you're up in the Timonium and you want to see a garden, drop by and visit us.
There you go. That's perfect. And you start around here like in March or so? April maybe?
We start in March. Of course, I've been dreaming since November of things that we're going to put in the garden.
Can't wait to hear what we're going to do next year.
The big reveal next year.
Okay, all right. You heard it here. Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Jenny.
I have another one of my friends here. Introduce yourself.
My name is Sharon Renee Taylor, and I'm a Master Gardener intern with Baltimore City, and I'm so pleased to join Jenny here at the Maryland State Fairgrounds in our Master Gardener demo garden.
Yeah, we're in the same intern class, so
yes, we are.
We did all the classes together,
Yes.
and we're working toward getting our volunteer hours done, right?
That's right.
How you
that's
doing?
right. I'm doing pretty well.
Yeah?
Yeah, I was really busy starting out of the gate, and in the thick of the things there in the summertime, I was working in a lot of community gardens in the city, and that's where my heart is, and that's the reason why I live in Baltimore County, but I decided to join the Baltimore City Master Gardener program because of so many food deserts that we have in the city, and I wanted to learn how to bring more fresh food, fruit and vegetables to the residents of Baltimore City and to teach them how to do it themselves.
How's that been going for you this summer?
It's been going very well.
Yeah?
Yes.
Got new people learning new skills
Yes,
and getting new food?
yes. In fact, I found a local Baltimore City gardener here working the fair who was encouraging to join our Master Gardener program. So hopefully we'll see him next year.
Well, that's great.
Yes.
Well, thank you. It's so
Thank
nice to
you.
have you on our little
Nice to be
video
here.
here. So then we also have this booth set up over there with lots of brochures and other types of information about home gardening, lawn care, composting, doing vegetable gardens. Of course, the spotted lanternfly. We've got information on that as well. So that is my little overview of our demonstration garden here at the Maryland State Fair. But as Robert said, you can come to this garden anytime, all year long. So come out and check it out.